We begin tonight in Bluff, where those who work in the oyster industry say a crisis is imminent if infected oyster beds at Stewart Island aren't all removed immediately. 2 farms are known to be infected, but as we'll hear later, that doesn't mean there aren't more farms in Big Glory Bay with the parasite. And as it spreads, the risk of it ending up in the wild oyster population of Foveaux Strait increases, and that would be a disaster for an industry worth many millions of dollars and for many hundreds of jobs. Our Otago Southern reporter Ian Telfer is in Bluff. Ian, what's the latest?
Well, John, down here at Bluff, things are starting to get pretty tense. There was a meeting last Tuesday at the rugby club and about 100 people came out from the oyster fishery, and they all said that the Ministry of Primary Industries needed to take urgent action. They're getting pretty concerned about it. And Graham Wright from the Oyster Management Company today told me this afternoon that the ministry only has one option now, and they need to take it right now to save the Bluff oyster fishery.
There's been scientific advice. The ministry convened a panel, technical advisory group panel, which is an international panel of science experts, headed by their own MPI science people, and the evidence, and that report was put in as response to Marlborough episode. And that response, while I haven't read it directly, I've seen the executive summary of it, and it clearly states, based on international literature and best science, the only way of minimising the spread of Bonamia austriae is to remove all of the infected farmed oysters from the water forever.
How many oysters would that be?
Don't know.
Thousands.
Best of my knowledge, and I'm not qualified to talk on it, but farmed oysters, the numbers involved in farmed oysters are minuscule compared to what's in Foveaux Strait.
Exactly. So they could pull up thousands to save millions. That's the idea.
Yeah. Roughly. Yep. Okay.
So, do you think that MPI is getting the message?
MPI told me yesterday that they, as a result of that meeting, they would make a decision, but they would be 48 hours before they communicated that decision, because they had some boxes to tick.
So when do you expect to hear?
Well, that was 12 o'clock yesterday, so they got to 12 o'clock tomorrow.
John, it's also worth saying that this new strain of the parasite Bonamia is called Bonamia austriae, and it's very different from the one that's been here in the 1990s and the 2000s and doing all the damage over that time. And here's what Graham Wright says about that.
So the austriae is a totally different strain. It is known as sort of affectionately as the European strain of Bonamia. It's a naturally occurring parasite that specifically affects flat oysters. It's in Europe, the experience has been devastation, and how it would sort of operate in Foveaux Strait as a concurrent infection with Ichthyosa and austriae. I mean, we don't know because it's not there, but we don't want to know. But overseas evidence and experiences, it will be final. It'll be the end.
The end of Bluff oysters.
Don't want it on my CV.
No, I bet you don't. Is that's worst case scenario, or that's where you're heading?
I think it's a very probable option. So we have to minimise the spread. So it's not too late. What we know so far is that in Big Glory Bay they have infected oysters. The biology of it is, and I'm not a scientist, but my understanding is that infected oysters are obviously lethal, but once they die, that is when the issue happens. So the infected particles spread through the water stream, and then you have that exponential spread of the oyster. So to my knowledge, there's been some testing going on as we speak, from samples that were taken from Foveaux for February that we did for our own management of our own fishery. But to the best of mine, I don't know the results of that testing, but my understanding is there's been no positive finds in Foveaux Strait yet.
And John, Graham Wright's not alone. It seems like many people here in Bluff are concerned about this. This afternoon I talked to the chair of the Bluff Community Board, his name is Ray Fife, and he points out that this industry is worth something like $20 to $25 million to this area. It's the heart of the community, and many jobs are now at stake if this doesn't go right. And this is what he had to say.
If it gets into the Foveaux Strait oyster beds, it has the potential to wipe out the entire oyster beds. Yeah. You're looking at 95 to 100% mortality rate. It's really bad.
Scary.
Very scary, yes, and hence the concern is that they would like MPI, the whole community, just not the fishermen and the business open, businesses, but the whole community realises this is very important to the Bluff community, and they want MPI to take action now, not wait and procrastinate and maybe make a decision and say, oh, well, we'll wait and see how it goes. But stuff should have been done yesterday.
And what's that stuff?
Basically what they're saying, and what the NIWA scientist said, who gave us all the information, is that the only way to stop it is to pull all the infected oysters out of the water. And they're on oyster farms, and it's a bullet those oyster farmers should, they'd be biting that bullet and pull all the oysters out for the good of the whole industry, not only the wild oysters on 5 Strait, but their industries in Big Glory as well.
So it sort of feels like a race against time.
It is a race against time, definitely a race against time. Yep.
Tough. And people in Bluff, I mean, even people who are not in the industry must be worried, eh?
Oh, definitely. Oystering in Bluff's employs a lot of people. A lot of businesses base the number of people they employ on maintenance on oyster boats and all the work therefore, and it's the other businesses around Bluff, and we could be looking at a lot of job losses, and the potential on Bluff is immense.
Graham Wright told me he thought it was about $25 million industry. It's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, if that's he'd probably have the figures more so than I would, and based on that, it's massive, definitely massive. It's not only jobs in Bluff, but there's jobs in Invercargill. It's the tourism it affects, and it's basically it's world famous, the name of the Bluff, the 5 Strait oyster or the Bluff oyster, and potentially it's going to be extinct and it'll be here no more.
So John, there are more and more implications coming out, not only for Bluff but further afield as well. My colleague Jessie Chang spoke this afternoon to restaurateurs both here and in Dunedin, and they say they're very concerned about the implications if this parasite is not stopped.
My name's Jessica Marks and I own a restaurant called the Best Cafe in Dunedin. One of the key parts of our business is the oyster season. It runs from March the 1st until mid-August. So that's a big chunk of the year in which we're able to sell these oysters. And there's a culture here with oysters, and it's a massive industry that will be affected, and in Southland. And I feel sorry for the guys down there who face the consequences of potentially losing an entire industry.
My name's Ross Jackson, and myself and my wife, we own Oyster Cove Restaurant. Well, there's a lot of people employed in the oyster industry in Bluff, right from the people who own the boats, the people who work on the boats, and then there's a lot of people employed in the factories processing oysters, selling the oysters, and byproducts like all the oyster shell, which gets crushed and turned into lime, and the freight. There's just a very large community of people that are employed by oysters, indirectly or directly.
Aaron Cooper, owner and manager of Harbour Fish. Oysters are a big part of our business, and it's a great South Island product that we do enjoy, and our customers come looking for them, especially in the first few weeks of the season. It's a big concern for the Bluff community as a whole. The oysters bring a lot of revenue to Bluff, and also bring a lot of employment for people. So they'll be sorely missed if there is a problem of that magnitude. We aren't sure. I haven't seen any confirmation that they're disappearing or anything like that, but I think there is some concern at the moment.
Joanna Kidston from the Kerry's Bay Hotel in Dunedin. I think absolute tragedy for Bluff, and a tragedy for New Zealand if this came about, and they should be absolutely looked after. I hope the government does everything in their power to make sure that they don't die out.
Jessie Chang and Ian Telfer, the reporters there. We will be back in Bluff after the news at 6.